How many times have you told yourself, "I'll do it when I feel motivated"? How often have you waited for the perfect mood to take action, only to find days slipping by with nothing done? We live in a world obsessed with motivation. Endless quotes, hype videos, and temporary bursts of inspiration. But what happens when that motivation fades, as it always does? This is where true growth begins. Not in the excitement of the moment, but in the quiet discipline of daily effort. If you're ready to stop depending on motivation and start building real power within, then this message is for you. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're on a journey of becoming mentally stronger, emotionally grounded, and truly unstoppable. Let's walk the Stoic path to success together. 1. Why motivation fails. Motivation is a feeling, fleeting, unreliable, and often manipulated by your environment. It's like chasing sunlight on a cloudy day. Sometimes it shows, sometimes it doesn't. Think about how often we wait for the right mood before taking action. We delay starting the gym until we feel energetic. We postpone creative work until inspiration hits. But feelings are notoriously inconsistent. They fluctuate based on sleep, weather, diet, social interactions, and countless uncontrollable variables. That's why people fall into cycles of inconsistency. They wait for motivation, which by nature is undependable. External motivators like music, quotes, or praise can only carry you so far before the novelty wears off. Just as chasing a patch of sunlight under moving clouds leads you in circles, so does chasing motivation lead to inconsistency and stagnation. You move, but you don't advance. True progress begins when you stop relying on temporary emotional highs and start anchoring your behavior in something sturdier. The Stoics believed in one truth: control what you can and let go of what you can't. You can't control whether you feel inspired today, but you can control whether you show up, whether you act, whether you honor your plan. This principle is ancient but timeless. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about prioritizing actions over feelings. Epictetus said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Your job is to focus on the controllable, your effort, your mindset, your discipline. You may wake up feeling drained, unmotivated, or overwhelmed, but that doesn't rob you of the ability to follow through. Your feelings are data, not commands. The Stoic path is about doing what needs to be done regardless of internal weather. If you anchor your habits to consistency rather than emotional approval, you become resilient. Life becomes less about reacting and more about responding intentionally. The mistake most people make is treating motivation like a fuel source. It's not, it's a spark. Discipline is the engine. Here's the misunderstanding. We think we need to feel driven before we act. But motivation isn't meant to sustain you, it merely introduces the idea. It lights the match, but if you don't feed the fire with consistent fuel, it dies. The real engine of transformation is discipline, the ability to do what you must, even when you don't feel like it. Imagine motivation as a breeze. It might give you a lift, but you can't build a life on gusts of wind. You need something dependable. You need habits, systems, values. People who achieve meaningful change don't have endless motivation. They have strong engines built on structure and routine. They turn up when it's hard. They follow through when it's boring. They act based on decisions, not emotions. When you stop depending on how you feel and start depending on what you decide, everything changes. You stop reacting to life and start creating it. This is the shift that liberates you. When your behavior is rooted in commitment rather than mood, you become free. You're no longer a puppet to your emotions or external circumstances. You regain authorship of your life. You can't always predict how you'll feel tomorrow, but you can predetermine your actions. Discipline is the architecture of freedom. When you make decisions in advance about your morning routine, your work ethic, your boundaries, you're no longer scrambling to find motivation in the moment. You've already chosen, and that choice becomes your anchor. This shift moves you from a passive existence to an active one. Life stops happening to you. You begin shaping it, one choice at a time. 2. How to build habits that actually stick. Discipline is built through systems, not streaks. If your habits rely on excitement, they'll die when boredom shows up. It's easy to stay consistent when something is new. The excitement gives you a temporary rush, and the brain craves novelty. But the real test of any habit is what happens when that novelty fades. The problem is that too many people confuse motivation with sustainability. They start with a burst of energy, hoping it will carry them through. But systems are what keep habits alive when excitement disappears. A system is a repeatable, scalable method that doesn't rely on willpower. It turns behavior into automation. For example, instead of hoping you'll remember to journal each day, you set a time, keep your journal on your desk, and tie it to a trigger, like your morning coffee. It's not about streaks or perfection. It's about showing up daily, even when it's dull. Boredom is a sign that the habit is becoming automatic. That's progress, not a problem. Start small, repeat daily, and anchor it to identity. Don't say, "I want to work out." Say, "I am someone who trains daily, no matter what." The brain follows consistency. Behavior that's tied to identity becomes self-sustaining. If you merely try to work out, every session becomes a decision. But if you are someone who trains daily, then skipping a workout feels out of character. Identity is powerful because it rewrites the script your mind runs on. And the best part? It doesn't take grand gestures. Small wins, repeated consistently, change how you see yourself. One push-up a day, one journal entry, 1 minute of breath work. These might seem insignificant, but over time, they rewrite your self-perception. The Stoics would call this character formation. You become your habits, not by thinking, but by doing. And the more you align your behavior with the person you aspire to be, the more natural that behavior becomes. The Stoics taught us that excellence is not an act, but a habit. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the strength of your systems. Everyone has ambitions. Everyone sets goals. But goals are not the problem. Systems are. A goal is a direction, not a method. It tells you where you want to go, but not how to get there. Systems are the daily grind, the rituals, the environment, and the structure that carry you forward. You don't achieve excellence by occasionally trying hard. You achieve it by showing up daily, even when you're not at your best. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. This means your performance under stress or fatigue will reflect your systems, not your ambition. Train low so you can perform high. Don't aim to be perfect, aim to be automatic. That's how Stoics prepared for adversity. They rehearsed hardship, built rituals, and embraced repetition as a pathway to virtue. Make your habits obvious, attractive, and rewarding. But more importantly, make them non-negotiable. They're not a choice, they're who you are. The science of habit formation shows that cues, cravings, and rewards drive behavior. That's useful, but the Stoic adds another layer: commitment. A habit becomes unbreakable when it stops being optional. When something becomes non-negotiable, you eliminate mental friction. You don't wake up asking if you'll journal today, you just do it. The identity takes over. You don't wait for the mood to meditate, you do it because it's part of your fabric. Making a habit obvious, visible, attractive, connected to your values, and rewarding, emotionally satisfying, helps.
but nothing beats making it essential to who you are. This is the Stoic path, building character through repetition, not through grand declarations. You sculpt who you are by how you behave consistently. That is the core of habit mastery.
3. Emotional control is your superpower. Some days you'll feel tired. Some days you'll feel discouraged. But emotions are not commands, they're signals. You get to decide how to respond. The first mistake most people make with emotions is assuming they're truths, but they're not. They're internal reactions to stimuli. You might feel tired because you slept poorly. You might feel angry because of an unmet expectation. These feelings are valid, but not necessarily accurate. They aren't mandates. You don't have to act on them. Emotional awareness doesn't mean suppression, it means observation. It means learning to pause between stimulus and response. The Stoics practiced this deliberately. They understood that emotions come and go, but your decisions define your character. When you realize that feelings are suggestions, not orders, you reclaim power over your behavior. It's the difference between reacting impulsively and responding with wisdom. Imagine a storm inside your mind: fear, doubt, anger. Now picture the Stoic sitting silently in the center, unmoved. That's emotional mastery. That's power. This image is not just metaphor, it's a mental model. Life will bring emotional turbulence, rejection, stress, setbacks. But the Stoic doesn't flinch. Not because they are numb, but because they've trained for inner calm. The eye of the storm is stillness. The world may rage, but your inner compass remains steady. This is the essence of true power. Not dominance over others, but control over yourself. When you're able to remain composed while everything else is in chaos, you become unshakable. Marcus Aurelius, despite leading wars and empires, journaled not about control over others, but control over self. That's the deeper strength. Anyone can act calm when life is easy. Real emotional mastery is proven when life isn't. When you're emotionally stable, your discipline becomes bulletproof. You no longer depend on mood, you depend on principles. Emotional reactivity is one of the greatest threats to discipline. One bad mood, one wave of anger, one morning of discouragement can derail weeks of progress if you let it. But when you train emotional regulation, you remove that risk. You begin to operate from principle. A principle doesn't fluctuate. It's your anchor when you're tired, your compass when you're lost. It tells you what to do regardless of how you feel. That's why emotionally resilient people are often the most consistent. They don't collapse under pressure. They follow their chosen path, even when it's steep. This is what makes discipline sustainable. You build a life on standards, not states. Train your mind to observe your feelings without obeying them. You are not your thoughts. You are the one watching them. This final realization is liberation. You are the observer, not the storm. Your mind may produce fear, but you can watch it. It may whisper doubt, but you don't have to listen. The ancient Stoics called this the inner citadel, a mental fortress that protects your clarity. Through practices like journaling, mindfulness, and self-inquiry, you create space between emotion and reaction. That space is power. It allows you to choose, to breathe, to redirect. You are not your anger. You are not your anxiety. These are visitors. You are the host. And once you understand that, you no longer live at the mercy of your feelings. You live by choice. That is the superpower of emotional control.
4. Destroy distractions before they destroy you. We live in a world of noise, notifications, endless scrolling. Every second of distraction is a second stolen from your discipline. Modern life has become a barrage of interruptions. Our phones buzz every few minutes with alerts that feel urgent but rarely are. Social media algorithms are designed to hijack your attention, keeping you hooked with a never-ending feed of updates, memes, and outrage. We've normalized multitasking to such a degree that sustained focus feels foreign, even uncomfortable. But here's the truth. Every moment you spend immersed in this noise is a moment stolen from your growth, your peace, and your goals. Your mind is not a junk drawer. It's a sacred space where intention should rule, not impulse. When you allow external distractions to dictate your attention, you're surrendering your inner authority. Discipline isn't just about doing difficult things, it's about choosing what not to give your energy to. The trivial will always shout louder than the meaningful, which whispers in quiet hours. You must protect your time like a warrior guards a fortress. Set boundaries, create rituals, remove temptations.
Time is not just a schedule, it's a battlefield. And on this battlefield, the enemy is subtle, persistent, and inside your own home. If you don't take active measures to protect your time, you're not just being careless, you're surrendering your life. You must become militant about what you allow into your attention span. That starts with boundaries. Put your phone in another room while working. Set specific hours for email or messages, and make your focus sessions sacred. Don't rely on willpower alone. Construct your environment to support your goals. Create rituals that signal to your brain it's time to focus. A specific place to work, a morning routine, a deep breath before beginning. Ritual is the antidote to chaos. Remove temptation ruthlessly. Uninstall apps, block websites, turn off notifications. Ask yourself, do I own my time or do I rent it out to distractions? Most people never ask that question, but a disciplined mind does. A focused life requires architecture, daily design, and defense of your limited, precious attention. Otherwise, distractions will own you, and you won't even realize it until it's too late. The Stoic Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? Cut what isn't. Focus on what matters." That's how you reclaim control. Marcus Aurelius's words serve as a piercing reminder of what it means to live intentionally. Is this necessary? It's a simple question, but one that reveals how much of life is cluttered with the unnecessary. Imagine applying that filter to your choices, your tasks, your conversations, your digital habits. How much lighter would your mind feel? How much sharper would your focus be? Distraction thrives in the unnecessary. Clarity, on the other hand, thrives in discipline. This is the essence of Stoic thought. Cut away what is not essential, and what remains is truth, peace, and purpose. When you continuously practice this filtering, asking yourself whether what you're doing, consuming, or engaging in is aligned with your values, you begin to take back ownership of your attention. That's what reclaiming control looks like. It's not about rigid rules, it's about living on purpose. The disciplined person is not cold or robotic, they're awake. Awake to the costs of distraction. Awake to the value of focus. Awake to the fleeting nature of time. If you want to live fully, you must destroy distraction before it destroys you.
5. The disciplined life is the free life. Discipline sounds hard, but it's the path to ultimate freedom. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from regret. Freedom from living below your potential. At first glance, discipline feels like restriction. It conjures images of denial, effort, and self-punishment. But this is a misunderstanding. True discipline is not a cage. It's the key that unlocks a life without guilt, without lingering what-ifs, without the ache of wasted time. Freedom is not doing whatever you want, whenever you want. It's having the strength to choose what's right, even when it's hard. Without discipline, your life is ruled by impulse, and impulse is a terrible master. It demands comfort now at the cost of your future. It whispers justifications and delays. But discipline liberates you from that cycle. When you show up for your goals, even in small ways,
You silence the voice of regret before it can speak. You free yourself from the inner critic that asks why you haven't done more, been more. The most peaceful people aren't those who did everything. They're the ones who kept their word to themselves. That's what real freedom looks like, living in alignment with your highest self. A disciplined life is a deliberate life. You wake up with purpose, you move with clarity, you sleep with peace. Discipline adds rhythm to the chaos of life. It's not about robotic repetition. It's about choosing your direction each day with intention. When your day is built around conscious habits rather than reactive choices, you begin to walk with clarity. You no longer start the day wondering what to do. You've already decided. There's immense mental peace in that. Waking up with purpose means you know your why. You're not flailing through tasks, you're executing on a plan. And when you lay your head down at night, you don't carry the guilt of neglect or distraction. Instead, you feel the grounded satisfaction of having honored your path. You weren't perfect, but you were present. That's the gift of discipline. It anchors you. It replaces anxiety with clarity, lethargy with energy, and confusion with direction. People chase peace in all the wrong places, but peace is found in showing up fully, living deliberately, and not betraying your own intentions. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do what matters, consistently, deliberately, and without excuse. One of the biggest myths in modern life is that success comes from doing more. In reality, it comes from doing less, better. You don't need to conquer every task. You just need to identify what matters and show up for it with unshakable commitment. The disciplined life simplifies. It removes the noise and replaces it with focus. But here's the catch. You have to eliminate excuses. No one escapes the reality that success demands consistency. Not perfection, consistency. That means showing up even when it's inconvenient. It means sticking to your routine when no one is watching. Every excuse is a tiny leak in your potential. Left unchecked, it becomes a flood. But every time you act without excuse, you reinforce your self-respect. You prove to yourself that you can be trusted. But the person who does what matters day after day is the person who rises, not through luck, but through quiet mastery. Discipline turns chaos into order. It turns wishes into reality. It turns ordinary men into legends. Every great life you admire is built on a foundation of discipline. From artists to athletes, warriors to writers, legends are not born. They are built, brick by brick, in moments of repetition and resolve. Wishes are passive. Discipline is active. A wish says, I hope. Discipline says, I will. That shift in mindset is the difference between mediocrity and greatness. Life is full of chaos, distractions, delays, but discipline cuts through it all like a blade. It creates structure where there was confusion. It brings movement where there was stagnation. The Stoics knew this well. To rule your life, you must first rule yourself. And ruling yourself means mastering your habits, your time, your impulses. When you do that, you transform. Not suddenly, but inevitably. You start as an ordinary person, but with daily discipline, you become something more. Not because the world changes, but because you do. And that's what makes all the difference. Motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a decision. And every day, you are one decision away from changing your life. Don't wait for the right moment. Create it. Don't hope for strength. Build it. Discipline isn't punishment. It's your power. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with someone who needs it. Your future self is watching every choice you make today. Be stoic, be consistent, and most of all, be disciplined.